Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa podcast, and welcome back to Avfc News Daily, your daily dose of Aston Villa news, breaking news, anything to do with Aston Villa. This is the place for it. So whenever there's news, it'll be on Avfc News Daily. If you're new to our channel, subscribe. Make sure you drop a like on this video. Let's have a like target of 600 likes and drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Monchi is here, Aston Villa's new sporting director. Over the moon with it, really happy. I'm not going to go into too much detail on Monchi, on his personal life and anything to do with him, his journey. I've already done an episode on that, so go back, check it out on the channel. It was when the news was sort of breaking that we were going to be linked with potentially getting Monchi from Seville, but now it's confirmed. I'm just going to talk about what I think the impact will be on Aston Villa. So more Monchi's background, go back and check that episode out. So there we go. So what does it mean? Christian Perslow's gone. Chris Heck is now heading up the business side of things regarding Aston Villa. He's also working alongside the V Sports as well. He's working alongside sort of the global entity of NSWE's sporting background now. So he's got that side of things, and Monchi has now got the footballing side of things. And I've spoke numerous times recently about Aston Villa backing Unai Emery 110%. Like, it's so important that we give Unai Emery every single tool we could possibly give him to get the job done. We saw last season, in the time that Unai Emery was here, that in the short space of time, the upward trajectory of a coach, a tactician, a winner, one of the best managers in the league, what he can do with a team that isn't even his team, barring one player. So everything that Unai Emery was doing was part of Unai Emery's coaching ability, managing ability, and raising the levels of the current crop of players, what we've currently got, through coaching, hard work, education, learning the system, etc. So we've already seen that with what he's got, he can achieve great things. So to give him everything he needs to achieve trophies, to achieve Champions League, to achieve Europa Conference, to win the FA Cup, to win the League Cup, you've got to give him everything that he wants. And for him to do that, he will achieve success. And in my opinion, that's what we are doing. We are building an elite mentality. We are building an elite, what's the word? We're building an elite sort of vibe to achieve success and a strategy. I think that's my word. We're creating a strategy in which it's going to build success. We're creating a philosophy of something that we work towards and abide by, and that will create a level of success through players, young players, recruitment of players. It will create a style of play. So I think all of these things, back in Unai Emery, the first thing that you'd initially say is backing by signing the players that he wants. And that's one thing, but it's about recruitment. It's about looking at targets. It's about thinking 3 or 4 windows ahead. That's what it's about. And that is what Aston Villa currently don't have. It's always felt like, for me, that we are living for the window and we're living for the next sort of half a season until the next window. Whereas that doesn't cut it. That doesn't create long-term longevity, doesn't create long-term success. It just creates a here and now vibe. And I think by bringing in Monchi, with his background of success at Seville with over 11 years, all of the trophies that he's achieved, the 700 scouting networks that he's got, the recruitment of players, knowing about leagues, knowing how to work with agents, knowing how to convince players to go to certain clubs such as Seville from different clubs. I think it's also important, and I think Unai Emery is massively important, but it's what you've got around him which is just as important. So if we've got all of these little pillars that sort of branch out, it's going to make us more successful, more sustainable, and it's going to achieve success short term and long term. It's the long term success as well, which is really, really important. I've been speaking on the episodes a couple of days ago saying that short-term success next season, we want to win the Europa Conference League, we want to win the FA Cup, but we still also need to maintain our establishment as a European football club, and that's by getting European football season upon season, and that has got to be the aim. It started last season, and it's got to continue until next season, the season after that. So it's amazing how NSWE now have completely ripped up the model of what we had a couple of seasons ago, and now this is the direction in which we're going in. And I think this is all culminating from having an elite manager, knowing what he needs, and just backing him. And I think that's so important. What I would say as well is that it's not just about backing what we got now, but this long-term vision enables you to plan for 3 or 4, 5 years in advance. Yes, things change, but I think if you have something that you're aiming towards as well, I think that is really important as well. And we see that firsthand with Brighton. They sell all their players, but the next best thing comes back through. They get rid of Potter, De Zerbi comes straight in. And those are the types of things how the models really do work with the planning and the forward thinking as well. So I think it's brilliant. And I think it's, for me as a fan who probably hasn't really seen that much success, it's nice to see we're doing things in the right way, that there is a plan, and that's what is really, really important. So, like I said, I've done an episode on Monchi a couple of days ago. Go back and check that one out. But I've stumbled across an article from 2016, which kind of paints a bit of a picture about what he's about, how he works, and I think this is really fitting to be on the episode of us announcing Monchi as our new sporting director. So it basically starts off with up the lift, where a mosaic version of Seville's anthem plays, and along to his office, Monchi outlines the methodology. Outside, an agent is waiting. One of his players is renewing today. It's not any easy to con this guy, he jokes. Inside, Monchi explains, 16 people cover a series of leagues. For the first 5 months, we watch a lot of football with no particular aim. We're just accumulating data. Every month, we produce an ideal 11 for each league. Then in December, we start watching players who appeared regularly in different contexts, home, away, international, to build the broadest possible profile. Monchi pulls out his phone and carefully reducing the image so the names can't be seen. That gives us this. A colour-coded spreadsheet shows players by position, around 250 potential targets in all positions. The manager says, I want a left-back who averages 11 kilometres a game, runs 800 metres at full speed, uses both feet, and from these, 10 will fit. Negotiations come next, where you will know the market, have an alternative, and be realistic. The guy selling a Seat Leon will claim it's the best model, Monchi says. Konate wasn't the first option. We were going after Fred, the Brazilian. We wanted Kevin Prince Boateng before Keita. And if a player says, Chelsea want me, I say, well, what are you talking to me for then? But then if Swansea or Spurs want you, let's talk. I sell the city, the club, a serious club that pays as I promised, which sounds trivial, but isn't. So I think that is really, really key, because we know how Emery works: methodical, planning, data, everything. We've now got a guy in the recruitment side of things that does exactly the same thing. Monchi will know exactly how Unai Emery wants to play. Monchi gets targets based on how Emery plays. Both come together. Who fits that left back role? There's the data. There's what Emery wants. There's the system. There's the tactics. Go and get the player. Sounds so simple, but it's so important to do. And it just makes so much sense. If you can't get your first target, who's on the list that can just do just something just as good? Go and get him. I know we all want our first targets, but the planning side of things is so important. I think what fans get miffed at is when you go after a target and then everybody knows what that target is, then this dude down here is like 10 times worse than this dude and he's no good. So the planning of getting the right players is just so, so important. And I just think it makes so much sense and I absolutely love it. Right, we've got another one here as well. So here we go. So this is when he's talking about he very rarely signs players, and this was from 2016. Very rarely signed players from England because of how expensive and etc. So have a listen to this. This was quite interesting as well. He has signed more than 200 players, but not one Briton. Are you really so bad? No, Monchi laughs. You have to persuade a player on many levels: football, life, finance. Competing with English clubs economically was always tough. Now it's almost impossible, although we have bought from there. Aspas and Zonzi, for example. It's a good market as English clubs buy a lot of players and only 11 can play. There's an excess. You can look at it. We can't sign Liverpool players: Sturridge, Firmino, Coutinho, but maybe if someone's not playing regularly somewhere, there's an opportunity. He also there's another one here as well, which is quite interesting. This final point here was really, really good. And so Keita goes to Seville first, then moves on, which is good for everyone. But first, football. Winning has given us sporting glory and has knocked on effect economically, Monchi says. We've created an environment conducive to the players succeeding and improving. I went down to the dressing room after the semi-final. Adil Rami, who's been at Lille, Valencia, Milan, hugged me and said, I don't know what it is about this club, but I've never played in a final in my life before. And in 1 year, I'm playing in 3. How good's that? So it shows you what he's all about. He can sell the city, he can sell the club, and it's so important that he can do that. And I just love this last point about this Adil Rami, who's been playing at Lille. He hugged him. I don't know what it's about this club, but I've never played in a final in my life before, and in 1 year I'm playing in 3. Absolutely, absolutely love it. I love that little quote at the end. So that just shows you a little bit of an understanding of how he works, what he does, what he's going to bring to Aston Villa. And I think if I had to pick Almani or Monchi, listening and researching and finding out about Monchi, I think I'd pick Monchi. And the fact that they've both worked together before, I just think it's a match made in heaven, and it's a great opportunity, and it's absolutely fantastic that he's here, and I'm absolutely buzzing. Can't wait for it to get started now. Can't wait for them to work together, get the signings. Can't wait for the next window. Can't wait for the window after that, because there is a plan. There's a legitimate philosophy and a plan. I mean, Monchi turned down Arsenal as well at one point, so he's been very, very sought after, and I think you can look at the Roma stuff and say that it didn't work, but I think for this type of role, you have to give Monchi the freedom, and you have to give the manager the freedom, and have to align everything together so it all works and everybody sings off the same hymn sheet. So I absolutely love it. I think it's great for Aston Villa. Let's get it started. Up the Villa, up the Emery, up the Monchi, up the NSWE, up the Villa podcast.